And Edward, we have folks online. Can we do some introductions there?
Hi, this is Melissa Ashton. I'll go ahead and start, if that's okay.
While Edward is doing that, I want to just, some of you know my staff. I've got Tracy over here, Martika, and Serene. Tracy is my compliance officer. So everything that's HUD, state regulation, that's her wheelhouse. Martika is my everything. She's HMIS, she's code enforcement, she's HUD enforcement, HMIS enforcement, John Johnson enforcement. She's all the above. And then, of course, Serene Kike is my marketing person. Couldn't really do it without Serene. So all of the notices that you guys get, postings on the website, updates to Facebook, that's Serene's wheelhouse.
Mute themselves.
And those that are on the call, you can unmute yourself if you want to do an introduction, your name, your organization, and what you propose in your targeted population. How many folks do we have online, Edward? 8 people? Okay. So all you have to do is unmute yourself and speak. Okay.
I'm just here
All
to
right.
observe.
I don't hear anything, so we're just going to keep pressing. Edward, can you name off the people online, Edward?
I'm just here
Uh,
observing.
yes, we have a Miss Allison. She's a guest.
Okay.
Miss Ashley Wilkerson Meyer, Dr. Jones, Heather Skit. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
No,
Katie
you got it right.
Graves.
It's
Thank you.
only
Melissa Ashton and Miss Michelle and Wanda Point.
I'm Michelle.
Honus?
Oh,
Oh,
Honus. I'm sorry.
okay. All right. Thank you for all for being online, but we're going to go ahead and proceed. Now, down here at the bottom right, uh, I've got some, some quotes and things of that nature. So if not now, then when? I want you to be thinking about that. If not now, if we don't do this now, then when will we do it? All right. And I think about how we think about doing a project and then the project never gets off the ground. So this window, this opportunity is now. All right. Okay. The thing that I'm going to tell you the most really is going to be read the NOFA. It's 124 pages. Now you can exclude, there are many pages in the NOFA that's talking about YHDP. Okay, we're not in the season of doing YHDP, so you can ignore much of that language. All right, but you're gonna get this throughout the presentation today. I cannot stress it enough for you to read for yourself and sit down and read the NOFA. Now, we're going to take this workshop and put it on our website, and we're also going to transfer it over to the Reducing Task Force website. So you can always go to the link, and if you click on it, it'll take you right to the NOFA. All right. So we've embedded some things in here to kind of help us. Again, this is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development NOFA. It's 124 pages. So it's from A to Z. All right. So read for yourself. All right. So I just wanted to make sure I stress that. Read the NOFA. Can y'all say read the NOFA?
read the
All
note.
right, all right. You guys are a good class. All right. The next one, I want to talk about the funding that is available. All right. Uh, and we're going to be very, very specific about this NOFA and what you guys can actually apply to. Again, if not here, then where? If we're not going to do it, somebody is going to do it. Right? There are approximately 385 COCs in the United States, 385. So if not here, then somebody in Alaska is going to do it, or somebody in Colorado is going to do it, or somebody down in Miami is going to do it. We ought to do it, right? Okay. Now, the funding that's available, I've got some comparisons, and I talked about this at the uh, task force meeting the other day. But here, I just want to outline what's available in our community. We're called FL 511. Right? When you get ready to sign in and log in to eSnaps, that number is going to be very, very critical. It's our Social Security designation for our COC. We are FL 511. All right. Now, this is Tallahassee. 506 is Tallahassee. 515 is Panama City. And 505 is Fort Martin Beach area. Now, PPRN stands for Preliminary Pro Rata Need. If HUD could fully fund us, this is what would be available in our COC. But unfortunately, there's only about 3.1 billion that's available for all 385 COCs. And when you pare all of that down, there's no way HUD could fund every COC with their preliminary pro rata need. All right, but that's what that stands for. The next one is the estimated ARD, and ARD stands for annual renewal demand. And the renewal demand is what it would take for HUD to fully to fully fund our jurisdiction. And to fully fund our renewal projects, it would take $754,000 to do that. All right. Unfortunately, in the NOFA, HUD stipulated that they're going to cut 385 COCs by 7%. So what that means is the 754,000 that we would have gotten is going to be reduced by 52,000. And then that means in tier one, we're going to have $701,000 in renewals for our jurisdiction. All right, over here, you've got the COC bonus that's available. Okay. Um, this COC bonus, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, what's available for that particular uh, project is $166,075. That's what's available. All right. And we'll talk a little bit more about the details and what you could do with that. All right. Then the DV bonus, which is separate from the COC bonus. It's an entirely different project that you can apply for, and that's 237,251. And DV deals with stalking, all of those things, domestic violence, those kinds of things. Okay. All right. And then as compared to the other COCs, Tallahassee receives a little bit more than what we do. And Okaloosa Walton is almost right behind us. And you can see Panama City, you know, they are in desperate need. Okay. All right. Any questions about the funding that's available? Again, this is going to be on our website for you to look at. Okay. Now, the application process, it's in three slices, three categories. All right. This is really COC 101. All right. So there's the application process. There is the project application. That's the individual projects. And then there is the priority listing. 1, 2, 3. What's that say? Can somebody read that for me? All right. You can do it. You can do it. All right. Uh-oh. All right. Somebody read that. All you have to do is click on that link, Vinny. It'll take you right to the NOFA. Read the NOFA. All right, read the NOFA. Okay. Now, in the CLC application process, remember it's three pieces. This is piece in part number one. It is highly competitive. Our FL 511 is competing with the other 384 CLCs. All right. That's who we're competing with. In the application that I complete in partnership with some others who will help me is it's big on collaboration and how we define that collaboration. It's big on including different subpopulations, LGBTQ. We're not an Indian jurisdiction, but if we were, how do we collaborate with tribal locations, connections to mainstream services, right?
This is
PHA inclusion, like is the permanent housing authorities part of the process? And we have three. We have the Section 8, which is the city of Pensacola. We have the Area Housing Commission. All right, they are a PHA. And then we have a PHA in Santa Rosa County, the Milton Housing Authority. So we have three PHAs in our jurisdiction. And HUD wants us to talk about how we are partnering with them. And it's not just about a verbal partnering. They want MOUs. They want
yeah.
it in writing. All right. We got to have it in
Yeah,
writing.
I tried for tuning.
And then again, mainstream services. How are you connecting folks to Social Security? How are
I
you
don't know.
connecting them to
Yeah,
mental health? How are
okay,
you
I'm sorry.
connecting them to workforce and post education in your project? So as you're doing your project, think about
Not yet.
including
Uh,
language like that because it's key.
no,
All right.
no, Teams meeting, but uh,
That. And then how you rank in accordance with other organizations in the community in our COC. So you may have an awesome, awesome permanent housing project. Somebody else may have an awesome, awesome permanent housing project. We need permanent housing, right? And so it goes back to how well you write your project, your the budget that you're proposing, uh, compliance with HUD goals, right? You want to stipulate in your application detailed budgets, right? Because there's a part in there where you outline your budget. Like if you're doing a permanent housing project, you got the opportunity to do supportive services, operations, there's admin, there's leasing or rental assistance. So you want to write a really, really good project. And I'll talk more about uh, what's required when we get into the practicals. And again, you are ranked against your fellow agencies. Okay. Yes, sir. Hold on. Let's get the mic. We got a question. You got the mic? We want to use the mic for questions so that people online can hear. Rodney has a question.
Good morning again. Um, how many projects, or is there a number of projects that you will choose? Like, say, against the projects that are going against each other locally, is there a set number of projects that you're going to choose already?
So there can be 25 people apply for the CLC bonus organizations. And in that ranking, uh, it's going to be the project that ranks the most that will likely get funded. Now, is it possible to do two projects with 166,000? I mean, what can you go with? It's not enough, right? So technically, we could rank and review two projects for that 166,000 and see if there can be two projects done out of that. But I can tell you 166,000 is not enough to do a permanent house, not especially when you need supportive services to go with it. So the chances are we're going to try to glean from that and send forth the very best project we can. Good question. All right. The next piece in the pie is the, Elwood, would you help me out? I don't know if we got people online asking questions or not, but the next one is priority listing. So remember, we talked about part piece number one. We talked about part piece number two. Now we're talking about part piece number three in the pie. So the priority listing, again, looks at our ARD, which I just talked about. So our renewals is going to be 701,000, and that is tier one. Okay, that's called tier one. Tier two is straddled. The $52,000 that I told you that we're going to lose is straddled to tier two. If we score high enough, we get to keep the 52,000. Okay, if we score high enough. Again, it's going to be all about our collaboration, the participation from many agencies. It's going to be system performance. It's going to be many things to increase our scoring. All right. And then the third thing is new projects is part of the ranking, which is different from the renewals. All right. So we got to rank new projects. And then the DV projects are ranked outside. Okay. So what we'll have is multiple, we could have multiple DV projects apply, but then we still got to rank those DV projects. COC planning is just added. We're not competing for that, but I still have to write the renewal grant for it. And then HMIS and coordinated entry are not included in the ranking, all right, because it's a priority from HUD. HUD says you got to have an HMIS and you got to have coordinated entry. So they are not ranked. All right, this thing is in the way. Okay, all right. COC priorities. Again, dare to believe, dare to believe. So our COC priorities, what do y'all think our COC priority is? What is our number one priority? Can anybody guess? Okay, that's part of it. Somebody else? He said reduce homelessness. But when you think about projects, what do you think our number one project is as a COC priority? Housing, housing, but not just any housing, okay? Because there's transitional housing, right? It's permanent housing. That is the number one COC priority, is to increase permanent housing beds in our COC. Okay. All right. The projects that are available under the NOFA, again, you're going to read the NOFA, right? All right. So permanent housing is permanent supportive housing. And this is for the COC bonus, not the DV. All right. So it's permanent housing, permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, SSO, which is supportive services only, HMIS, and then this is the link that takes you to the 24 CFR that talks about, and I'll go there real quick. part of me wanted to test out everything to make sure, okay, it goes straight to the overview for the COC. All right. Once you go to this particular screen, if you navigate along this left side, okay, I'm gonna make it bigger. Okay, can I make it bigger? Okay. You're gonna navigate to this left side, and it talks about the different program components. Okay. You got the COC overview for you got permanent housing. So those that want to do permanent housing is a good handy dandy tool. You click on that. Transitional housing. Heard somebody say they want to do a rapid transition to permanent housing project. Supportive services only. HMIS and homeless prevention is not eligible in this COC bonus. But if you wanted to know about homeless prevention, you could. All right. And then the eligible costs. This is the joint uh, TH and PH to Rapid project that I just mentioned. And that's available for DV and the COC bonus. And then there's a test of your knowledge quiz that's available. All right. Okay. So this link will take you right to the place you need to go to navigate. Okay. Okay. All right. One of the goals, if you read the NOFA, HUD is prioritizing housing first. Can anybody tell me what housing first means? What does housing first mean? Tracy Campbell. Oh, Mike, we need the mic. Where's the mic, Elwood? Okay. What's housing first, Miss Campbell?
So under, and it's Simmons, John, but under housing first, we have to agree, according to the state and HUD guidelines, not to impose any undue requirements on the participants. So the goal is to rapidly rehouse a person if they're homeless and then work with them on the supportive services to get the things that they need to get in place to become sustainable and, to maintain permanent housing. And that includes things like requiring them to do religious things or sobriety and all that kind of stuff. Like we can't impose those undue things on them.
Okay. Okay. Well said. Well said. Anybody want to add to that? All right. So housing first means you don't put a barrier. You don't make a requirement to program entry. You don't say you got to go to residential treatment first and then we'll offer you housing. It's all about putting them in right where they're at and then later introducing the supportive services. Okay. Housing first? Yes. Yes. It's for the people on the it's the people online.
Okay, well, we have it here, and so people are put in the housing who are not been through residential, they just go in and they're put in. How is that working out? Are they staying or are, what's happening? Are they able, because I mean, taking somebody off the street and putting them into permanent housing without knowing what they're gonna, I mean, it looks like a system to fail.
Right.
From my view, from what I see. Okay.
Right. And there are different beliefs about whether or not housing first is the answer. But HUD gets to dictate because it's their money, right, to do housing first. Yeah. Martika has a comment.
So historically, we have three housing first projects in our community. We have three projects that are currently active. We have one at Lakeview Center, we have one at 90 Works, and we have one that we reallocated and dissolved here at Opening Doors. So these individuals that have been served by these projects have been housed permanently for a long time. Whenever a housing first project is developed in its permanent housing beds, clients can stay in that housing forever, pretty much, as long as the project continues to be funded. And there's been great success with these programs with after you house the individual, getting them into treatment, surrounding them with all the mainstream benefits that they need, and they have been sustained long-term in their housing. So it is effective. The problem is we just don't have enough PH beds in our community. We don't have enough permanent housing beds in our community. So that's the reason why we're pushing this so heavy this year.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Edward, is there anything in the chat? Anybody got any questions in the chat? Oh, okay, all right. And so this is a description of the housing first approach, all right? Okay. The next one is the targeted population. You know, who does it mean? So the primary target in our COC really is going to be people that are literally living on the streets when you think about permanent supportive housing. These are people that are living in places not meant for human habitation, bridge, parking lot, encampments are some of the locations, even emergency shelter rooms. Now, this does not include, all right, people that are couch surfing or living in a sober living home. Now, what's a sober living home? What's a sober living home, Mr. Jones? Give him a mic. What's a sober living home? Johnny Jones.
Okay. A sober living home is a location designed for individuals who may be suffering from some type of substance issues. And so therefore they are housed. And in the one that we ran once before, we were able to offer them wraparound services that addressed all other issues as well.
So you can't pull someone from a sober living environment and put them in your permanent supportive, is what this is saying. All right. Also, we have a lot of clients in our community that are living in motels, hotels paid by themselves. So they wouldn't count because they have the resources in order to maintain their housing. It's the folks that are in motels and hotels that are funded by other nonprofits that you can target. All right. And it doesn't include those that are doubled up. Okay. Just because someone is in an environment that's a one bedroom and you got 10 people living there, that's not a justification for placing them in the permanent supported housing. Okay. Again, read the NOFA. You click on that link. I guarantee you click on that link, it'll take you right to the NOFA, right? It'll take you right to the NOFA. So read the NOFA. Read the NOFA. All right. Now, there are some flexibility with other eligible clients, but depending on the program type that you are planning to do, like people that are actively fleeing domestic violence, they can go into the permanent housing project because that's a category 4, right? Martika, category 4, those fleeing domestic violence. So I'm getting a yes from Martika. I'm getting a yes from Martika. Okay. Okay, we got a question, Serene. You got your running shoes on today?
I guess.
So Troy, it's Troy. Yeah. All right, Troy.
You stated it was for those who are fleeing from domestic violence, right?
Mhm.
My question is this: does that just include people from the United States, or could it include somebody else that may be an immigrant that doesn't have their paperwork and they come in, they're fleeing for domestic violence? Do we have to attend to them too?
All right, let's give it to my regulatory staff, Martika.
Here, regulatory staff. Yeah.
The question was people that are immigrants that don't have papers, that are not from our area, that's coming in, that are fleeing domestic violence, would they count?
Yes, actually, there are citizenship rules about that. There's actually something that's gone over in Snapshots, which is developed by HUD, and it discusses that those who are non-citizens, if they are unsheltered, so street homeless and they're needing some type of rapid rehousing services or PSH services, then they can qualify for assistance. It's only when it comes to homeless prevention programs where citizenship is actually a problem at the HUD level.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Hold on, Tracy. Hold on, Ms. Simmons.
Now you've piqued my interest, Martika. What does that look like for us? Because before we were told that if they weren't citizens, they couldn't.
And so now, since this is something that is starting to impact our community, right? We're going to now, as a community, start having discussion about what does this look like? What are the policies that we need to have in place to ensure that we are helping people to go through our process for housing, but to help them to become naturalized, right? So, Catholic, your program, you have an immigration program, right? So, there'll be agencies that need to probably write as a part of their NOFO to work with Catholic about helping people get through DACA, right? So, that would be, in my mind, through case management, we need to talk about with awardees or recipients of the grant that what is going to be our community process for working with people who fall into this subpopulation. Because it's not been something that has happened very often in our community, but it is now becoming a common place or common stance.
Do you have a question, Rodney? Rodney got a question then.
Then Troy.
Who? Okay.
In response to Martika's question, answer, do we have to now look to create a collaboration with agencies like that? If my independent agency perhaps are dealing with individuals, as Troy stated, who are immigrants who don't have paperwork. So if I write a proposal in relations to serving DV victims that are immigrants with no paperwork, do I need to start looking to build a collaboration with agencies like Catholic Charities?
That is the whole purpose of Continuum of Care. That is the whole purpose of the homeless response system. It's collaboration with the different social service agencies, government in your local community to move the needle on homelessness in our community, in our local level. So whenever you are doing any type of project application for state or federal grants that are serving homelessness, it should always be with the scope of working with other agencies because you can't do it alone.
Troy, was that, you have another question? Okay, got another question. Okay.
Okay, my second question is, how do we document them? Would there be some place like HMIS that documents them, we can separate them from everybody else? Or do we just document them as inside of the HMIS system? I guess what I'm saying is that is there a separate place that we document undocumented citizens?
Still talking about the domestic violence undocumented.
Somebody.
Yeah, DV. Yeah, it is different.
So if we are talking domestic violence, and now it sounds like everyone's getting into the realm of HMIS. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, so let's clarify some things. So in the policies for the COC, we are required to say what is the process working in tandem with DV providers in the community that are funded. And so basically what that process is right now is in written standards that we have currently, it's that we point them in the direction of Favor House, and Favor House works with the clients. However, we have been doing another process that's built into HMIS that allows for a client to say whether they're going to share the visibility of their information or not. For DV victims, we readily tell them about the process, about that you don't have to put your data into the HMIS, that if you do consent to have your data in the HMIS, you can say what agency you want to share your data with. And then we lock their profile down only to the agency that they're working with at that point of in time. If it needs to be changed, we need something in writing from that client to allow for us to open them up to another agency. So they are told readily now that, hey, do you consent to share your data or not share your data? What agency do you want to share the data with or not? Because HMIS has changed over years. A lot of people don't know that. And so now there's visibility put into the system to where we can have an unnamed client. A client can be anonymous. A client can be, again, the visibility of the profile can be locked down. So it's something that's going to have to be a discussion with awarded project applicants to talk about what our process is going to be to handle DV victims that are in need of housing. However, if you are a VSP or victim service provider, and I'm going to wrap up, Mr. Johnson, I promise. If you are a victim service provider, victim service providers themselves cannot enter data into the HMIS. It's different than a housing provider that is not a victim service provider. So that's why there has to be two separate processes stood up. I hope I did not lose you. Again, if you are a victim service provider like Favor House, they can't enter data into HMIS. But Opening Doors, who does serve victims of domestic violence, we have had to stand up a visibility process to ensure that we inform clients of what that process is to allow for their data to either be shared or not.
So are you saying to be a victim service provider, majority of your clients are served through the domestic violence?
So one, to be deemed a victim service provider, one, you have to deem yourself as that. It has to actually be in your 501c3. What is your mission? What is your vision? That is how you are designated as a VSP, is who are you saying your primary population is going to be, and a lot of your grants that you write that are associated with your organization, you say in there is that our funds or our bids are dedicated to domestic violence victims who are actively fleeing domestic violence or who are homeless, whatever that language is. So that is how someone becomes a deemed VSP.
There's a comment in the chat. I am with Legal Services of North Florida, and we frequently work with undocumented clients who have been victims of crime on UV visa and other legal needs. Thank you for that comment, Melissa. Okay, right. Now, these are subpopulations that are allowed. Again, targeting those that are chronically homeless. We may have some youth organizations that want to target youth. I remember Lutheran Services, Jamie Lapointe talking about those kids that age out of foster care and having a safety net for them. Persons with mental illness, veterans, again, DV survivors. All right. Okay, Benny, were you writing? Read the novel. Okay, read the novel. Read the novel. Read the novel. Thank you, Benny. And where's my apple? You're sitting at the front of the class. I'm supposed to get an apple. All right. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Walt Disney. All right. So timeline. Now is the time. We talk about the timeline. I will tell you that we are a little bit ahead of schedule. HUD released the NOFA on July 6th. I think we sent out a notification from the COC saying that the HUD is available, I believe on July 6th. Today represents our first open workshop. I also did a presentation at the workshop with the task force the other day. So we are ahead of schedule. So I'm glad about that. So this is the FL workshop, FL 511 workshop that we're having today, where we're requesting proposals. Monday, August the 28th is going to be the due date for your projects. So if you are a organization that is interested in applying, you must submit your application to the COC by August the 28th. Okay? You have to submit it by August the 28th. Now you might say, well, why can't we submit it the 29th or 30th? Thank you for asking that question. Well, in this particular software, Grantium software that you guys will be using called eSnaps, it date stamps the exact time that a project is submitted. So we can't deceive HUD. Anything outside of that won't even be considered. So I cannot stress enough that you submit your applications by August the 28th. Okay.
Somebody want to ask what time on August the 28th?
It says 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Read the note. This is a great class. This is a great class, man. All right. So you got to submit it by August the 28th. Okay. Again, that gives you a good 30 days to put your stuff together. Now, Friday, September the 8th, opening doors scoring committee will submit final scores for each project application by 6 p.m. So they're going to rank and review. And then the 11th of September, we'll send accepted or rejected applications. Okay. Oh, wait. We got a question from Tracy Simmons.
This program doesn't run like your regular one from fiscal year July to June. This one runs from October 1st to September 30th.
Correct. This based on the federal budget and how the federal government, Congress allocate funds. All right. Now, these are key dates continued. So Wednesday the 13th of September, again, written notification of accepted applications will be sent to all applicants. The 14th, we'll submit a public notice of the ranking and selection decision on our website or via email or at both. The 28th of September is our deadline for submitting the entire application. Y'all remember I said it's broken into 3 pieces? Okay, so that one whole piece is when I submit it to HUD, but I'm not waiting. I don't plan to wait to the last day to send that. I'll probably send it the 27th because there is a mass exodus of other COCs submitting on that day, and sometimes that can be a log jam. And so I've done this so many times, going all the way back to 2008 is when we started doing these grants. And I can tell you it's a busy, busy time. So I don't want to wait, but we have until the 28th to submit it to HUD. And then again, that HUD's final submission deadline is 8 p.m. September the 28th, Eastern Standard Time. So we'll have the COC application completed, the project application submitted, and the project listing and ranking complete. Okay. And then we post it to our website. All right. Now here comes the fun part. Roll up your sleeves. Your hands are about to get dirty. I'm going to show you how to navigate the process with HUD. HUD's website is massive. It's massive. And you can easily get lost in it, which is why we have embedded these helpful tools that take you right to the resource you need. Okay. Now, this first one, we're going to call it a COC binder. It has a glossary of terms. So language like ARD and all these different things, you can find it in the binder. And Vinny, I'm so glad. Vinny wants me to click on this link. All right, here it is. So this is a glossary of terms. Acquisition, it goes into affirmatively furthering fair housing rule, annual homeless assessment report. Here's that ARD that I just told you guys about. It defines exactly what it is. At risk of homelessness, cash match. I mean, you get all of the definitions and terms. Okay. Continuum of care, the centralized coordinated system, dedicated plus. And you click on that, and then it'll give you the terms for those that may not be familiar with some of the language that they may see in the NOFO. Okay. So that's there. That's the COC binder. Okay. Now, here's my little thing. Like the match, just do it. We're gonna talk about match. Anybody know what match is? Anybody know what match? Match. What's match? Okay, we'll give it to Vinny. Hold on, Vinny. Vinny wants to answer.
It's the requirement of the organization that is seeking funding to come up with their own funding sources they're responsible for?
That's right. That's right. HUD wants you to put your skin in the game. HUD is giving you a little money. It's not a lot. It's a little money. And HUD wants to see you bring some resources to the table because HUD is fully aware that the funds that they provide us is not nearly enough to carry out the activities. But you can leverage your activities, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about match. All right. So what is match? So uh, the grant in the NOFO requires a 25% match. The only thing that is excluded from match is leasing and rental assistance. All right. You don't have to match that. So if you're going for the COC bonus of 166,000 and you dedicate 60,000 to leasing, then you only have to match the $100,000. Does that make sense? You got to match about 25%. All right. So what's required? So supportive services, your case management, you have to match that. Operating costs, you got to match. Admin costs got to match. HMIS, street outreach, case management, you got to match those things. But you don't have to match leasing and rental assistance. All right. Okay. Again, what are some creative ways you can get matched? Well, you can look at the federal government. You can use Medicaid, CDBG, CSBG, ESG, SAMHSA, and the list goes on and on and on. Match is typically one directional, but you always got to refer to the program rule around match. And what do I mean by that? For example, we received coordinated entry, which is a federal grant. I used ESG, which is a federal grant, to match the coordinated entry grant. But I can't use you can't use it in both directions. You can only use it one directional. I either use ESG to match coordinated entry or coordinated entry to match ESG. You can't do both though. But that's a creative way to do it. Uh, Locally, if you receive county or city funds, foundation money, other nonprofits, you can use your match because we talked about collaborations with other nonprofits. You can use and leverage their support for your project and match it. All right. Program income, rent payments that you get from the client, you can use that as match. So, in other words, if a client is providing a program fee, you can use that program fee and use it as match. All right. Again, I got a link right here, Rich. You click on that link, it takes you right into, guess what? Let me make it bigger. Okay. It takes you right into match. Over here on the left-hand pane, you can see match requirements, cash match, in-kind match. Anybody know what in-kind match is? Anybody know what in-kind match is? Okay. Okay. So we're gonna get somebody. Let Donna Pruitt, Dr. Donna Pruitt answer. In-kind match. That's the question. What is in-kind match?
I'm going to assume it's space, it's volunteers, it's supplies that are donated, whatever you can come up with, it's not dollars.
That's right. The only requirement with the in-kind and cash match is that it has to be spent within the time frame of your grant. It cannot be expended outside the grant. So if your grant starts here and it ends here, your in-kind match has to be the in-between. It's got to be signed by the executive director or president of the nonprofit or organization that is providing the match. Now, HUD will allow for you to use like contracts that you have as long as it's within and is expended during that grant period. Okay. You got to talk about what you commit as a organization providing the leveraging or the match, and it's got to be signed. Okay. You need to detail the kinds of services that's going. You guys got a mic over there, Tracy. Yeah.
And we also have to make sure it's an eligible cost within the grant itself. So if the grant can't pay for it, then it's not considered eligible for match.
That's right. That is right. Okay. And again, you click on that link, it'll take you right into the match. And it even has ineligible sources. So it tells you what you can't match. Thank you for bringing that point up, Tracy. Okay. All right. Any questions online? All right. Questions online. Okay. All right. Now, these are some other helpful links. Now, we're almost done. All right. So, uh, what I want to do is we're going to go right on into the create an eSnaps profile. So, this was one of the challenging pieces and parts to participating in a NOFA. All right. So, you have to have a eSnaps profile. Now, you already have to have a SAMS registration. You got to be registered with the federal government in order to receive federal funding. That's requirement number one. You have to be a 501c3 organization uh, with an IRS designation from the IRS. You got to have that. Okay. You won't get past first base if you don't have those things. And when you register with SAMS, you're going to get a UEI. Essentially, the UEI is your organization's fingerprint. It tells HUD, federal government, exactly who your organization is and shows them that you are in good standing and worthy to receive funding. Without the UEI, you will not be able to complete the individual project application. Okay. Some other anecdotal things that you're going to be required to do. You're going to have to submit a lobbying document that you don't lobby. And if you do lobby, you got to disclose it. You also have to include in your application your nonprofit status, your drug-free workplace environment that you know drug-free. You got to include those kinds of things. All right. So we're going to choose create profile in eSnap. So this is what it looks like. Okay. Okay. So don't be afraid of this. All right. And this is how you go in and you create a eSnaps user profile. It tells you step by step exactly how to do it. And remember our designation. If you don't put FL 511 and you put FL 505, you'll be registering your organization in another COC and it will not work. All right. So it has to be Florida FL 511. And as you go through these different steps, it has helpful hints on how to create your own profile. All right. You have to have somebody in your organization designated to be the representative to to submit. You trying to get this link? Okay. Remember, it's on the PowerPoint. Okay. All right. So where was I? You have to designate a user for your organization. And it's password sensitive. It's password protective. Okay. So you, the only one, should go in and be able to edit and enter information unless you designate somebody else. But in it, your SL 24, which is your individual application that you apply, is going to have all of your local information. The one thing that I want to tell you is that our service area has 3 codes. I don't know the codes off the top of my head, but it's 3 6-digit codes that represent the city of Pensacola, Escambia County, and Santa Rosa County. You'll have to identify and discuss in your application what areas you want to serve. So you can serve both Escambia and Santa Rosa. I would I would recommend you serve both so that you can receive clients from both communities. But understanding what that code is very, very important. And I think, Tika, we probably want to help them with that. I think the geocodes, yeah, the geocodes. I think we need to help them by providing that so they'll know that. All right. So we'll do that as a homework assignment is provide you guys with the 3 6-digit codes that represents our designation. Okay. Did you get everything you needed? Okay, you did. Okay. All right. So again, you're going to get this welcome screen. Remember, identify somebody that may be electronically savvy that can navigate. Most of the questions when you log into eSnaps are drop down, some are typed. Make sure you know the name that you want to have for your project, right? Because once you use that name, you're stuck with it, okay? HUD also has provisions in here that if you forget your password or lose it, you can go back in and get another password, okay? Sometimes people leave. There are mechanisms in place so that when somebody leaves, you can designate somebody else, all right? Okay, but this is the screen that you're going to see. Again, this is the person that's going to be the user, first name, middle name, last name, email address, confirm the email address, your password, and that's just the profile start, okay? Am I going too fast? Okay, all right. Okay, now that links the user profile to your organization. And then this is how you click on this to access your organization's eSnaps account, right? Okay. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. All right. So that's creating a user profile. That's one of the things that you want to do. Okay. All right. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time with the DV projects. I know this not doesn't relate to everyone, but I wanted to just kind of talk briefly about the DV project. Again, you click on the link. It talks about the DV bonus during the CLC competition. We got some questions here. Who should you serve? What types of projects are eligible? So when you click on the projects that are eligible for my DV folks, you got rapid rehousing, joint transitional, and rapid rehousing. You have supportive services only, which is the coordinated entry. You got permanent supportive housing, and you have HMI. So, oh, I'm sorry, these are ineligible. So permanent supportive housing under DV is ineligible, and HMIS is ineligible. Why is HMIS ineligible? Bingo, bingo. Okay. How DV grants are submitted. So a COC may apply multiple housing projects under the DV. Specifically RRH, again, we want to create permanent housing options. We want to create permanent housing. We want to increase our permanent housing beds, right? And so rapid rehousing is permanent housing. So, and then there's some more helpful things. Then this is the navigation tool for my DV folks that want to apply. You click on new project application, and that'll take you through the navigational guide for the DV. Okay. Again, this navigational guide, once it pops up, don't worry about that 2021. It still works. It tells you step by step on how to set up your projects. Compliance, declarations, your HUD 2880, your 5007, which is your surveying. That document talks about the number of personnel you have in your organization and how much your annual budgets are. There's your SLLL, your 424. That's your designation for your organization. It's like your resume. My organization is Favor House, for example. I'm located at blah, blah, blah in Pensacola, Florida, blah, blah, blah. So that's SF 424 talks about that. All right. It provides your project detail. That's where you get to narrate in your project all the things that you plan to do. I want to say that for both the DV and COC bonus projects, your project detail is very, very important because HUD is going to hold you to that forever and a day. Everything will revert back to your original grant. What did you say you would do? So I would not set overarching goals that you cannot complete or achieve. You want to be able to speak to things that are achievable, things that you can actually do. You can talk about collaborations. You can talk about how you're going to draw your clients and from what sources. You could talk about your different partnerships that you've developed. You can talk about your connection with mainstream workforce development and education, post-education projects. All right. Let's see. So And then it has the breakdown of operating budget, supportive services budget, rental assistance, whether you're going to rent or lease, sources of match, in-kind match. You got to have certifications in all those areas. Okay. And that will be the details on how to navigate your project. All right, for new projects, again, if you're a new project, here are the links. Takes you right to it. New project application and resources for the COC program. All right. Detailed instructions, okay, for new projects. The navigational guide for new projects. So let's click on the navigational guide. Should have 2022 for the new one, but it may have 2021. Okay, it's got 2022. Excellent. All right. So again, let me use this. This is better. So there's the detailed instructions, and then there's the navigational guide. So the navigational guide is going to walk you through setting up, like, how do you do your budgets? How do you do all these different things, right? So for example, let's talk about, let's see, let's go to project participants and households. So this is the screen you're going to see within the grant. I'm gonna make it a little bigger for those in the back. Okay. This is the screen you're going to see for project participants. Now, even though this is a navigational tool, it's going to look and be the exact replica of what you actually enter into in HMI, or not HMI, got HMIS on the brain, eSnaps, okay? So this breaks down the targeted population whom you propose to serve. So the number of people you're gonna serve, whether it's, again, HUD is gonna hold you to what you say. So if you say you're gonna serve youth and adults, that's what you gotta do with the money. You can't wait till later on to say, I want to now only serve adults. If you're gonna do adults and children, men and women, if you're gonna do those that with severe mental illness, etc., you have to say what you're going to do, and HUD is gonna hold you to it. Okay, so really be very thoughtful about who you think you could serve, because if you say I want to serve, 10 people, within that year, they're looking to see that you serve 10 people. Right? Again, you want to make sure your goals are measurable and achievable. All right. Again, this navigational tool will walk you through that. That was just one example. I tell you, it is a step-by-step process. And, if you want to serve, CH stands for chronic homeless. So if you want to serve chronic homeless vets, you have to make sure that it's not a regular homeless vet, because there's a distinction between a chronic homeless and a person that's homeless. But if you say you're going to serve chronic homeless, you can't serve regular homeless. It's got to be chronic. And a chronic is very, very different. It's defined differently. These are the most harder to reach. And HUD has placed their bonus funding on serving those with disabling conditions that are chronically homeless. Oh,
Does HUD actually audit these, or are you their agent?
HUD. So this is a good question, a very good question. Now, when it comes to system performance, we monitor that. So that's our requirement, to monitor system performance. How well is your organization performing? Are you, you got to participate in HMIS. That's the thing I needed to lead with. You got to be in HMIS to do this, and you got to be part of the coordinated entry. So we measure system performance. Now, HUD sends representatives to actually monitor you. We just went through a HUD monitoring, and I tell you, they look at you with a scope. We got a permanent supported housing project that's about 41,000. It's a pure project. What makes it pure rich is that 100% of it goes to leasing. So there's no admin, no case management, no support services. It's a pure project. And it's only 41,000. You would have thought we received like, 100 million. The way we went through the whole process of being monitored, they literally take the federal regulation and say, okay, this is how a chronic homeless person is defined. And then you have to show uh, that you took the steps to collect the information. That's why HMIS is so important, because the one thing that we all share is the client. And so every time a client hits a project or a program within the community, that organization needs to say that the person is homeless, because that's how you certify chronic status. They have to have a disabling condition. Not only must their disabling condition be that of a diagnosis, but it has to be long term. It has to, uh, what's the language, Tracy? So when we're looking at chronic status, it has to be a disabling condition that's expected to be long term, and a clinical person had to have diagnosed them. It takes a doctor, a licensed clinical social worker or mental health counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist to say that this is a disabling condition that is expected to be long term and will impede their housing. Uh, it's got to be that. That's how we validate chronicity. Okay. All right. Any questions about this navigational tool? You want to use it to set up your project. Again, I would do this in tandem as you're writing your project. It gives examples, as you can see, of how to do it. Um, these are some helpful links. Again, I think I'm at my last power slide. Uh, it it this process is doable. You can achieve it. I will tell you that at the at this moment, right now, okay, I'm in blackout. What that mean? Well, that means that I cannot strategically help you as an individual. I want to, but I can't, because you guys are now competing for the funding. And I want you to apply. I want people to apply so we can bring more resources to the community. But the only way to get these projects is that somebody has to do it. If not you, then who? If not here, then where? If not now, then when? Martika, you got the geocodes ready? Okay. Okay. Let's see.
Okay, so the geocodes are broken down in this way. So for Pensacola, Florida only, the geocode is 122466. 122466 for Pensacola, Florida only. If your project will be serving Escambia County, your geocode is 129033. 129033 at Escambia County. Santa Rosa County, 129113. Santa Rosa County, 129113. What I would like to say about this is I actually cannot in the HMIS put multiple geocodes on the project. So you're going to have to say in your project application what subpopulation and the number of people you're going to serve in each geocode. So just be aware of that. So in the HMIS, I cannot put multiple geocodes on project. So in your project application, you need to say the number of persons you're going to serve in each geocode.
Are you going to be allowing questions and then putting them in the little question queue on the site? No.
The answer was no.
So we provide services to victims in Santa Rosa and Escambia and many, many times end up with people in Pensacola, right? So how should I differentiate in my application? Like, is it, I'm
You'll
primarily,
do that. You'll do that in your project detail,
okay. So,
in your application.
and then my second question is, if our transitional housing, the house itself, the physical facility is located in Santa Rosa, but I already know that we're going to have a higher concentration of Escambia. How do I, does that matter? Does it matter?
doesn't matter.
That my house
That
is in
doesn't
Santa
matter.
Rosa? Okay.
That doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Pruitt has. Anybody online got a question? Okay.
I have a couple of questions. I started to leave when you said one grant, maybe two, and just knowing we don't fit. Do you gain bonus points by the number of applications submitted? Do we help you to put something in there, even if we know we have zero chance of getting it?
No,
Okay.
the points are not gained from the individual project.
From numbers of
applications. It's
applications.
gained from the COC application.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do we help you in the next few weeks strengthen your points where we can get to the bonus money? Are there things all these different groups can do to help you with that strengthening your application?
Thank you for raising that question. Praise the Lord. Yes, the answer is yes. I can tell you that HUD just opened up the COC portion of the application yesterday. They just made it available. I've been monitoring it for the past couple of weeks since they released the NOFO. There are questions in there that are related. So I've made some inroads. Meredith is one of my partners in this process as a public housing authority. They're looking to support us. Again, we have to show where we're connected with PHAs. There's a portion in there where we have to talk about clients being connected with health care, whether it's community health as an FQHC, Department of Health, okay, the Hope Clinic, St. Joseph's Clinic. We have to show connections and partnerships that are written, signed by the CEO or executive director, not a verbal thing where we're connecting people. So those are ways to get points. There's some other things in there, Dr. Pruitt. What I may do is just make the actual application itself available so people can just go in and look at it. I got to figure out a way to do that so they can look at the questions that we're going to be reviewing. So as I go through the different questions, I think about who can answer this question. Like years ago, Lindsay Cannon, all right, and Jamie LaPointe, because they deal with youth, I sent them questions related to youth. School district, I sent them questions related to the school district. So I do send questions out in the hope that I'll get information back. Like Dr. Phillips with the Department of Health, back when COVID was a big deal, we had to show how we were connected with the Department of Health. So I sent questions to her. And what I end up doing with those questions, because I like to think that I know everything that's in the community, but I don't. And how individual organizations and their practices are, those details I don't know. So I will be sending out questions because the more we can strengthen our application, the better we are at our individual projects getting approved. So thank you for raising that question. Anybody else? I want to give you back your Friday. Thank you for joining us. Again, we'll post this on the website, on our website, so you can go in and get the PowerPoint slide.
I have a
Please.
commercial.
Oh,
I
we
have
got
a
a commercial.
Hold on. We're having a Tell Us About series today at 2 p.m. With the Epilepsy Alliance of Florida will be here. They'll just give us about 30 minutes on their services if you'd like to attend. If you'd like to have your own organization, get on our schedule for the Fridays Tell Us About. My cards are up front. Take a card, give me an email or a call and pick an open Friday. Our Fridays are on our events page on our Opening Doors website. Thank y'all.